The early morning mist hung over the rolling fields of northern France, a soft gray veil that muted the colors of the landscape and made the horizon seem like a distant dream. Along a narrow, winding road, German reconnaissance units moved cautiously, their half-tracks crunching over gravel, engines humming a low, constant note of anticipation. In the villages nearby, windows rattled as the occasional gust of wind swept through, and the locals, aware of the skies filled with rumor and tension, watched silently, some clutching their children, others merely pressing faces against the cold glass. Above them, the clouds parted in scattered layers, and through the openings, the sun's weak rays glinted off the metal surfaces of aircraft preparing for patrol. Meanwhile, hidden within the folds of a small, hastily camouflaged airfield, American mechanics worked tirelessly around a lineup of P-47 Thunderbolts. The aircraft stood imposing on the tarmac, their broad wings stretching wide, engines roaring as they were tested, exhausts spewing black smoke in brief puffs that mingled with the morning fog. Pilots, suited and helmeted, checked instruments, radios, and ammunition belts with meticulous care, their faces showing a mixture of concentration and restrained excitement. The briefing had been long, and maps had been scrutinized until the lines between towns, forests, and fields blurred into a single, critical strategy. Rumors of the aircraft's reputation reached the German pilots first. Stories of heavy armament, rugged construction, and surprising maneuverability. Some had laughed dismissively, recalling earlier encounters with lighter fighters that faltered under concentrated fire. Yet now, as the Thunderbolts rolled toward the runway and the engine's vibrations thrummed through the earth, even the skeptics felt a subtle tension, a prickling of unease that could not be ignored. There was a quiet understanding among the American squadron. This mission would test not only their skill, but the very limits of the P-47's power, and the skies ahead would demand vigilance, precision, and courage in equal measure. The planes began taxiing, their massive frames cutting through the fog, shadows stretching over the uneven tarmac. Every creak of landing gear, every burst of engine power was amplified in the stillness, as if the morning itself held its breath. Pilots exchanged nods, gestures, and last-minute checks, their movements fluid but charged with unspoken determination. Somewhere in the distance, the first German aircraft could be seen, silhouettes against the dawning light, their presence a silent challenge that would soon erupt into violent, precise action. The tension was palpable, the kind that sharpened senses and made every second feel like a lifetime, setting the stage for the moment when the skies would finally ignite with the unmistakable roar of combat. The airfield buzzed with anticipation as the P-47 Thunderbolts lined up like predators waiting to pounce. Mechanics scurried under the gleaming fuselages, checking every bolt, every control surface, their movements precise yet urgent. The smell of oil and avgas hung heavy in the air, mingling with the faint, acrid trace of spent gunpowder from earlier training sorties. Pilots adjusted their helmets, flicked switches, and ran through mental checklists, each aware that every second counted. Ground crews signaled with practiced gestures, coordinating tire pressures, fuel levels, and armaments. Inside the cockpits, pilots' hands trembled slightly, noting from fear but anticipation. Instruments glinted in the early morning sun, gauges ticking in rhythmic confirmation of readiness. Engines roared to life one by one, a symphony of controlled chaos that reverberated across the tarmac. Communication crackled through headsets as commanders issued final instructions, reminding the men of formations, engagement protocols, and the importance of keeping altitude advantage. As the Thunderbolts began to taxi, the pilots could see the distant horizon where enemy aircraft were reported, dark specks against the pale sky. The engine's growl intensified, vibrating through the airframe, through their hands, through their very chests. Every eye scanned the sky and the terrain, the tension tangible yet focused, each man poised at the edge of controlled violence. The lead pilot signaled takeoff. One by one, the Thunderbolts accelerated down the runway, tires screeching, propellers slicing the wind. As each aircraft lifted into the sky, the ground fell away, replaced by endless blue and the distant, waiting threat. Formation lines tightened, wings aligned with meticulous precision, and the squadron climbed steadily toward their patrol altitude. Conversations were few. Only the rhythm of the engines and the occasional acknowledgement through the radio filled the cockpit. From the ground, the scene appeared almost serene, yet the pilots knew the tension was only beginning. Every glance at the instruments, every adjustment of throttle or rudder could mean the difference between life and death once the first enemy appeared. The airfield receded behind them, replaced by clouds and open sky. The stage set for the inevitable confrontation, the quiet before the storm.
The horizon stretched endlessly, a pale blue canvas that held the threat of sudden chaos. Pilots in the P-47s scanned every cloud formation, every glint of sunlight on distant metal, knowing that the enemy could appear without warning. The formation maintained discipline, wings tight, altitude steady, engines humming a persistent warning. Every movement, every adjustment of throttle or rudder was deliberate, the result of training and instinct combined. Suddenly, a sharp glint caught the eye of one of the pilots near the lead. German fighters appeared, sleek and deadly, cutting through the sky like shadows. Radios crackled with terse warnings, the briefest shouts of acknowledgement before silence again took over. Each man focused entirely on his own aircraft, on his own role in the unfolding confrontation. The P-47s began to maneuver, banking sharply, climbing and diving, each motion precise to maintain formation while preparing to engage. The first shots rang out, the staccato chatter of .50 caliber rounds slicing through the air, tracer lines marking trajectories, sparks flying from nearby strikes. Pilots adjusted their aim, predicting not where the enemy was, but where it would be in the next instant. Smoke trails and exhaust left the sky streaked with chaotic patterns, the aerial battlefield transforming into a living, breathing map of danger. Some P-47s drew enemy attention, their pilots weaving, rolling, diving, forcing the Germans to split their focus. Each maneuver required split-second decisions, instincts honed through training and past sorties. The deafening roar of engines, the whistle of bullets, and the occasional distant explosion created a sensory storm. Pilots felt the vibrations in their hands, the strain in their necks, the sudden surge of adrenaline as they executed complex aerobatic maneuvers under fire. Despite the chaos, discipline held. Lead pilots called out adjustments through headsets, correcting positions, reminding gunners to focus on exposed wings or tail sections. The Thunderbolt's armament proved devastating. Multiple enemy aircraft went down in controlled bursts of gunfire, the air filled with smoke, metal fragments, and the sharp smell of burning fuel. Every pilot knew the stakes. Hesitation could be fatal. Precision was life itself. As the engagement continued, some aircraft were forced to break off, trailing smoke or limping back toward friendly lines. Others pressed the attack, banking aggressively, diving in coordinated strikes, alternating cover and offense seamlessly. The sky became a chaotic chessboard, each move measured yet fluid,
a deadly dance of speed, firepower, and sheer will. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, eyes strained against sun glare, hands cramped on controls, but the pilots maintained focus. The enemy fighters were skilled, but the Thunderbolt's firepower, armor, and sheer resilience began to turn the tide. Enemy planes were sent spiraling downwards, some crashing in distant fields, others forced to retreat. When the last German fighter broke formation and fled beyond reach, a tense calm replaced the frenzied noise. Pilots exhaled collectively, adrenaline still surging, instruments glowing, aircraft trembling from sustained maneuvers. They regrouped, checked for damage, counted missing or straggling comrades, and began the long climb back toward the airfield. Every man was aware of what had just occurred, a brutal, intense engagement that tested skill, courage, and nerves to their absolute limits. As the Thunderbolts returned to base, engines roaring in triumph and exhaustion, pilots glanced at one another with silent acknowledgement. The P-47s had proven their might. Their 8.50 caliber guns had left an indelible mark, and the Germans had learned, with grim certainty, not to underestimate them. On the ground, mechanics prepared for repairs, medics checked over minor injuries, and commanders recorded every detail for debriefing. The sky, once again calm, seemed almost peaceful in contrast to the chaos of moments before. But every pilot knew the war was far from over. Today's battle had been won, but tomorrow would bring new threats, new challenges, and the same brutal dance in the skies. Yet for now, the Thunderbolts had flown, had fought, and had triumphed, leaving their mark on history with courage, firepower, and unyielding precision. As the smoke cleared and the rumble of distant dogfights faded, the German pilots realized the stark truth of what they had underestimated. The P-47 Thunderbolt, once mocked for its perceived bulk and lack of agility, had proven itself in a relentless display of firepower and resilience. German Messerschmitts, initially confident and eager to assert air superiority, were forced into evasive maneuvers as the 8.50 caliber machine guns of the Thunderbolt tore through their formations with unyielding precision. Debriefings after the mission revealed expressions of disbelief among Luftwaffe officers. "We expected a nuisance, not a nightmare," one pilot reportedly muttered, reflecting the sudden shift from contempt to respect. Meanwhile, American pilots maintained a disciplined formation, exploiting the P-47's durability, diving speed, and heavy armament to maximum effect. Despite taking hits themselves, these pilots returned with their aircraft largely intact, a testament to both machine and man. The encounter fundamentally altered strategic calculations. Intelligence reports, which had once dismissed the P-47 as an unwieldy bomber escort, now flagged it as a formidable opponent capable of challenging German air dominance. Ground crews began noticing a higher survival rate among Thunderbolts after engagements, with airframes sustaining damage that would have grounded lighter fighters. The psychological impact was equally significant. German pilots approached subsequent missions with a newfound caution, altering their usual tactics to account for this unexpected threat. In the quiet hours following the engagement, conversations among American pilots reflected both relief and pride. They understood that while individual skill remained critical, the P-47's design had shifted the odds. This aircraft, once underestimated, had become a symbol of resilience, firepower, and tactical surprise. The dogfight served as a lesson not just in aerial combat, but in the dangers of underestimating the capabilities of a machine when wielded by disciplined, courageous crews. And for those who had doubted, the roar of 8.50s would echo in memory long after the smoke had vanished.